crumbs of kindness. The December wind bit through Olivia Reed's thin jacket as she settled onto her favorite bench in Willowbrook Park. Steam rose from the container in her hands, a small comfort against the gray afternoon. This quiet corner, tucked behind a row of bare sycamores, had become her refuge during lunch breaks from the struggling bakery where she worked. At 32, Olivia had imagined her life would look different. The prestigious culinary school degree hanging in her tiny apartment was supposed to have led to a head pastry chef position, not stretching ingredients to make ends meet at a bakery teetering on the edge of closure. Still, she had her small joys, like the raspberry chocolate tart she'd saved from today's batch. The secret's in the ganache, she murmured to herself, taking a small bite and closing her eyes to savor it. A shuffling sound made her look up. A man stood several feet away, watching her with tired eyes. His beard was unkempt, his clothes worn but clean, and something about his posture suggested he was trying to make himself smaller, less noticeable. Most noticeably, he carried a tattered notebook under one arm. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I didn't mean to stare. It smells wonderful." Olivia glanced down at her tart, then back at the man. His eyes weren't hungry so much as wistful. Without hesitation, she broke the tart in half. "Would you like to try it? I'm a pastry chef, or trying to be anyway. I'd appreciate an honest opinion." Surprise flickered across his face, quickly replaced by wariness. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Olivia smiled. "I want to." "I'm Olivia." He hesitated before stepping forward. "Marcus," he said, accepting the offered dessert. "Thank you." Marcus sat at the far end of the bench, maintaining a respectful distance. When he took his first bite, Olivia watched with the nervous anticipation of someone who had poured their heart into their craft. His eyes widened. "This is extraordinary. The texture contrast between the crust and filling." He took another careful bite. "And the raspberry adds just enough acidity to balance the chocolate." Olivia blinked, surprised by his knowledgeable assessment. "That's exactly what I was going for." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You succeeded." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. Marcus handled the tart delicately, savoring each bite with a focus that intrigued Olivia. "Do you come here often?" she finally asked. "Recently, yes," he replied, brushing crumbs from his weathered coat. "It's quiet. Good for thinking." "Same reason I come." Olivia nodded, checking her watch. "I should head back to work. The afternoon rush, such as it is these days." "Where do you work?" Marcus asked, his eyes briefly meeting hers. "Bellflower Bakery, over on Maple Street. Nothing fancy, but we make everything from scratch." She stood, gathering her things. "Feel free to stop by sometime." "I usually try out new recipes on Thursdays." Marcus nodded but said nothing. As Olivia turned to leave, she paused. "I'm here most days, same time. If you're around tomorrow, I'm bringing a cinnamon pear galette that I've been perfecting." "I'd like that," Marcus said softly, clutching his notebook tighter. Walking back to the bakery, Olivia couldn't explain the impulse that had made her share her food with a stranger. Perhaps it was the loneliness that had become her constant companion since moving to this city. Or maybe it was the flicker of appreciation in his eyes, not just for free food, but for the craft behind it. Little did she know that their chance encounter would soon change everything. Behind the facade, the next day arrived with a gentle snowfall that dusted Willowbrook Park like powdered sugar. Olivia arrived at her usual bench, carefully balancing two containers, one with her promised cinnamon pear galette and another with hot ginger tea. She wasn't sure if Marcus would return, but something told her to prepare for him anyway. She didn't have to wait long. Marcus appeared through the swirling snow, his collar turned up against the cold. Today, his tattered notebook was joined by a sleek camera hanging inconspicuously around his neck, an oddly professional piece of equipment that seemed out of place with his worn appearance. "You came back." Olivia smiled, patting the bench beside her. "You promised cinnamon pear," he replied with the hint of a smile. "I've been thinking about it since yesterday." As they shared the galette and passed the thermos of tea between them, Olivia noticed Marcus taking mental notes with each bite. his expression analytical beneath the appreciation. "May I ask what you write in that notebook?" she ventured, nodding toward the worn journal he kept close. Marcus hesitated, his fingers tightening around it. "Just thoughts, impressions." After a pause, he added, "I used to write professionally." "What kind of writing?" "Food criticism, mainly," he admitted, "though it feels like another lifetime now." Over the next hour, their conversation flowed more easily. Marcus revealed small fragments of himself, his love for obscure spices, his travels through Southeast Asia documenting street food, his preference for simplicity over pretension. What he didn't share was that these weren't merely preferences, but professional opinions that had once shaped the culinary landscape of 3 major cities. Marcus Turner wasn't just any food critic. He had been the renowned palate pioneer columnist, whose reviews could make or break restaurants. But that was before the accident that claimed his younger brother's life 8 months ago, a brother who had been driving to meet Marcus for dinner at a restaurant he was reviewing. The guilt had crushed him. He'd resigned from his position, cut off contact with colleagues, and retreated into anonymity. His expensive condo sat empty while he wandered the city's streets, seeking to understand the world without the privilege and influence he'd taken for granted. What started as a temporary escape had stretched into months of self-imposed exile. He'd been invisible until Olivia saw him, not as a critic, not as the disheveled man he appeared to be, but simply as someone who might appreciate good food. "Your galette crust has the perfect balance of butter and flour," Marcus said. "Most bakeries overhandle the dough." Olivia brightened. "That's exactly what I tell my boss. But he's more concerned with production speed than technique." "Your boss is wrong," Marcus stated with unexpected firmness. "Quality is remembered long after speed is forgotten." As their meetings continued through the week, Marcus began asking more specific questions about Bellflower Bakery, its challenges, its strengths, its owner. Olivia spoke candidly about her frustrations, the owner's unwillingness to innovate, the declining customer base, the rumors of impending closure. "I have all these ideas," she confided, sketching pastry concepts in her own notebook. "Seasonal ingredients, local collaborations, baking classes. But it's not my bakery." Marcus watched her animated expressions as she described her vision. For the first time in months, he felt something stir within him, a purpose, a desire to help. That evening, he returned to his dust-covered condo and opened his laptop. The food critic in him wasn't dead after all. What Olivia didn't know was that Marcus had been discreetly photographing her creations with his professional camera, documenting each pastry she shared. Nor did she realize that he had begun researching Bellflower Bakery's ownership and finances, formulating a plan that would soon intertwine their futures in ways neither could imagine. The vanishing act, 3 weeks into their park bench friendship, Olivia arrived at their usual meeting spot with troubling news and a box of chocolate-dipped shortbread. But the bench remained empty. She waited until her lunch break ended, watching snowflakes accumulate on the vacant seat beside her. Marcus didn't come the next day either, or the day after that. Olivia told herself it was foolish to worry about someone who was essentially a stranger. Yet the absence of their conversations left a hollow feeling in her chest. She'd grown accustomed to his insightful comments, his quiet appreciation, the way his eyes crinkled slightly when something truly impressed him. Meanwhile, the situation at Bellflower Bakery deteriorated rapidly. Mr. Gaines, the owner, called a staff meeting to announce he was putting the bakery up for sale. "Unless a miracle happens in the next month, we'll be closing our doors," he told the small team, not meeting anyone's eyes. "I'm sorry." Olivia stayed late that night, alone in the kitchen, methodically testing variations of her signature chocolate soufflé. Baking had always been her refuge, the place where chemistry and artistry met in perfect harmony. Each precise measurement and careful fold was a small act of control in a world that suddenly felt very uncertain. By midnight, she had produced a dozen perfect soufflés, but solving Bellflower's problems would take more than perfectly executed desserts. She needed a business plan, investors, marketing expertise, all things beyond her current reach. As January's chill deepened, Olivia continued visiting their bench, bringing small treats each day in case Marcus returned. She left each uneaten pastry on the bench, a breadcrumb trail for someone who seemed to have vanished into thin air. What Olivia didn't know was that Marcus had retreated to his long-neglected condo to put his plan into action. He'd spent days writing, photographing, researching, and making calls to former contacts in the culinary world. For the first time since his brother's death, he'd showered, shaved, and dressed in his tailored clothes, resembling once again the influential critic he used to be. His apartment walls were covered with notes about Bellflower Bakery, its location, competition, and potential. Central to it all were photographs of Olivia's creations and her sketched ideas, which he'd carefully photographed while she wasn't looking. Marcus's self-imposed isolation had served a purpose once, helping him process his grief. But meeting Olivia had awakened something dormant within him, a reminder that his knowledge could be used to build rather than merely judge. His brother had always encouraged him to open his own restaurant instead of just critiquing others. Perhaps this was his chance to honor that dream, albeit in an unexpected form. Meanwhile, Olivia faced her own challenges. With Bellflower's impending closure, she'd begun sending out applications to other bakeries and restaurants, but the responses were disappointing. In a competitive market, her lack of head chef experience counted against her, regardless of her talent. One evening, as snow fell heavily outside, Olivia sat at her small kitchen table surrounded by rejection emails. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Keep your chin up, honey. The right door will open when you least expect it." Olivia smiled wryly. Her mother's unfailing optimism had always been both comforting and slightly exasperating. But tonight, staring at her uncertain future, she desperately wanted to believe it. The next morning, an elegant cream envelope arrived at her apartment, addressed in flowing calligraphy. Inside was an invitation to an exclusive culinary showcase event at the Meridian Hotel, along with a personal note: "Your talent deserves recognition. Please bring samples of your work. A car will collect you at 7 p.m. on Saturday." There was no signature, just a small sketch of a bench with two figures sitting at opposite ends. An unexpected invitation. Saturday evening arrived with flurries of anticipation matching the snow outside Olivia's window. She carefully packed her best creations: raspberry chocolate tarts, cinnamon pear galettes, and her signature lavender honey madeleines. Each pastry was a testament to her dedication, meticulously crafted despite her uncertainty about the mysterious invitation. At precisely 7 p.m., a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. The driver, professional and discreet, offered no clues about who had sent for her. The Meridian was the city's most prestigious hotel, its grand ballroom transformed for the evening into a culinary wonderland. Stepping inside, Olivia felt immediately out of place among the well-dressed crowd of culinary elites and influential investors. Self-conscious in her only good dress, she clutched her pastry boxes like lifelines. "Ms. Reed?" A hostess approached. "Your station is prepared. Please follow me." Bewildered, Olivia was led to an elegantly set display table bearing a placard reading "Olivia Reed, Artisanal Pastries." Unlike the other elaborate setups surrounding her, hers was simple and elegant, designed to showcase her creations without distraction. "There must be some mistake," Olivia protested. "I wasn't prepared to present tonight. I thought I was just attending." "No mistake," the hostess assured her. "You're one of our featured artisans. The organizer was quite specific about your inclusion." As Olivia arranged her pastries, her mind raced. Who could have arranged this? Her gaze swept the room, searching for a familiar face among the sophisticated crowd. The evening progressed in a blur as attendees, including renowned chefs, restaurant owners, and food critics, stopped to sample her offerings. Their praise was effusive, their business cards accumulating beside her display. Several restaurant owners expressed interest in her joining their teams, while others inquired about wholesale arrangements. Midway through the event, a hush fell over the crowd as a man took to the small stage at the front of the ballroom. Olivia froze, pastry tongs suspended in midair. It was Marcus, but transformed. Gone was the disheveled beard and worn clothing. This Marcus wore an impeccably tailored suit, his hair neatly styled, his posture confident. Only his eyes remained familiar, finding hers across the crowded room with the same quiet intensity she remembered. "Welcome, distinguished guests," he began, his voice carrying authority she hadn't heard before. "I'm Marcus Turner, and I'm grateful for your presence tonight." Whispers rippled through the crowd. The name Marcus Turner meant something to these people, something significant that Olivia couldn't quite grasp. "Many of you know me from my former career as a food critic," Marcus continued. "What you don't know is that for the past 8 months I've been on a journey of rediscovery, learning to see our industry through new eyes." He described his self-imposed exile, walking the city anonymously, observing food culture from the margins rather than from privileged tables. Without naming her directly, he spoke of encounters that had reminded him of food's true purpose: to nourish, to connect, to bring joy. "Tonight marks my return to the culinary world, but in a different capacity," Marcus announced. "I'm establishing the Turner Culinary Foundation, dedicated to supporting innovative food artisans and community-focused establishments. The foundation's first project, he revealed, would be the acquisition and transformation of a struggling local bakery into a showcase for emerging talent and a training ground for aspiring chefs from underprivileged backgrounds." Olivia's heart raced as realization dawned. Bellflower Bakery, her pastries, this showcase. It wasn't coincidence. It was Marcus's plan all along. After his speech, Marcus made his way directly to her table, ignoring the many hands reaching out to welcome him back to society. "You disappeared," Olivia said when he reached her, emotion making her voice unsteady. "I needed to become myself again to help you properly," he replied quietly. "I hope you can forgive the deception." Around them, guests sampled Olivia's creations, unaware of the intense exchange happening between the renowned critic and the previously unknown pastry chef. "The bakery you mentioned," Olivia ventured. "Is it really Bellflower?" Marcus nodded. "Unless you'd prefer we find a different location for what I'm thinking of as Reed and Turner Patisserie and Community Kitchen." The name hung in the air between them, not just a business proposition, but an invitation to a partnership, a fresh start for them both. Second chances, spring arrived in a profusion of cherry blossoms and renewed purpose. Where Bellflower Bakery once stood with its faded sign and outdated interior, Reed and Turner Patisserie and Community Kitchen now welcomed customers with warm light spilling onto the sidewalk and the scent of freshly baked bread greeting visitors before they even stepped inside. The transformation had been comprehensive. The kitchen was now state-of-the-art, with separate stations for bread, pastries, and chocolate work. The cafe area featured comfortable seating arranged to encourage conversation, while a glass wall allowed customers to watch the baking process. Most significantly, a dedicated classroom space occupied the former storage area, equipped for the free baking classes offered to youth from the local community center. On this particular morning, Olivia moved through her domain with practiced ease, checking the proofing bread and conferring with her small team of assistant bakers, 2 of whom had been hired from the culinary training program they'd established. Chef Reed called Daniela, their youngest apprentice. "The special order soufflés for the Henderson event are ready for your inspection." Olivia smiled at the title she was still getting used to. Perfect timing. "Let's have a look." As she reviewed the delicate chocolate creations, Olivia reflected on the whirlwind of the past 3 months. The partnership with Marcus had evolved in unexpected ways. His business acumen and industry connections complemented her culinary creativity and teaching instincts. Together, they'd created something neither could have accomplished alone. Marcus entered through the back door, returning from a meeting with local farmers about seasonal produce. Where once he'd hidden behind an unkempt beard and hunched posture, he now moved with quiet confidence, though still preferring to stay behind the scenes while Olivia became the face of their establishment. "The Hendersons called again," he informed her, hanging up his coat. "They've increased their order for tonight's charity gala. Apparently, word has spread about your desserts." "We can handle it," Olivia assured him, though her eyes betrayed a flash of anxiety. Even after months of success, part of her still feared it could all disappear as quickly as it had arrived. Marcus noticed, as he always did. "You've got this," he said softly. "Remember what you told our students yesterday about facing challenges?" Olivia smiled, recalling her own words. "Break it down into manageable steps, just like a complex recipe." The afternoon passed in productive harmony as they prepared for their largest catering event yet. The patisserie buzzed with purposeful activity, Daniela practicing her piping techniques, their bread specialist scoring artful patterns into sourdough loaves, Marcus handling logistics while occasionally stepping in to assist with chocolate tempering. When the last delivery van departed for the Henderson Gala, Olivia and Marcus found themselves alone in the kitchen for the first time that day. "I received another offer for a feature article," Marcus mentioned as they cleaned workstations side by side. "Food and wine this time. And you'll turn it down like all the others?" Olivia guessed, knowing his aversion to publicity. "Actually, I think we should consider it," he surprised her by saying. "Not for me, but for what we're building here. The community program deserves recognition. It could inspire similar initiatives elsewhere." Olivia paused, sponge in hand. "You've come a long way from the man who was hiding from the world on a park bench. As have you from the pastry chef who didn't believe in her own potential," he countered gently. Later that evening, they sat at their special table by the window, the very spot where, months ago, the original Bellflower display case had stood. 2 cups of spiced hot chocolate steamed between them as they reviewed plans for the upcoming week. "I've been thinking about expanding the youth program," Olivia said, pushing a sketch across the table. "If we convert the upper floor, we could accommodate twice as many students." Marcus studied her design, noting the careful attention to workflow and accessibility. "It's perfect. We'll make it happen." Their hands met briefly over the drawings, a simple touch that acknowledged how far they'd traveled together from that snowy park bench. Their relationship had evolved from strangers to friends to business partners, with the potential for something more deepening between them, unfolding at its own unhurried pace. Outside, cherry blossoms drifted past the window like pink snow, a reminder that renewal comes in many forms. For Olivia, it had arrived as an unexpected second chance at her dreams. For Marcus, it was the opportunity to create rather than critique, to honor his brother's memory by building something meaningful. What had begun with shared crumbs of pastry had blossomed into shared purpose. As darkness fell and the patisserie's lights glowed against the spring evening, Olivia and Marcus continued planning their future. One recipe, one student, one day at a time, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary second chances begin with the simplest acts of kindness.